Alright guys, today we're going to take apart, clean, and reassemble a Benelli M2. This is what I took out the other day to shoot our patriotic buck through, so it needs a cleaning. I put probably about 50 rounds through it. So first, as usual, we are going to make sure it's clear. We're going to double check, stick our finger in there, make sure it's not loaded. Even if you just sat it down before you start taking it apart, make sure it's clear. So cock it back, leave it back, leave the breech open. Next we're going to unscrew our magazine extending tube here. You may or may not have one of those. I bought this brand new and it came with it, so you got to kind of wiggle around this sling holder there. It'll get jammed up and not allow you to remove. And watch out for the spring in there. So there we have it, our extending tube, our stop, follower, or whatever you want to call it, our spring. Now, next part's easy to remove the barrel. You just slide it on out. There's our barrel, a little dirty. Pull the foregrip off. Now to get our bolt assembly out, I'm gonna go ahead and push it forward. Make sure it's still cocked though, or else the hammer will get stuck and you won't be able to pull it out. Give it a tug, pull the charging handle off, and your bolt should slide right out like so. Alright, next we will pull out the trigger group. In order to do that, we've got to pull that pin out right there. Okay, so to do that, we're just going to use a little pusher. Push it through, kind of like a 870. Except it's only got one. I believe an 870 has 2 pins. So that releases that. A good tug. Move it forward. There's your trigger group. Everything you need in there. We could go further here and pull the buttstock off and see the kind of like an AR following tube back there that goes into the stock. Our little rod right here actually slides in that little spring-loaded area, which is the reason why they stay pretty flat, because the energy is getting pushed. The bolt's getting pushed back like that. It kind of keeps the gun flat. It shoots really flat, actually. Alright, get a piece of cloth here, and we'll start off by wiping everything down. Next, let's take apart our bolt. Get that wiped down good. It's been a while, so bear with me. I believe there's a pin. There's our firing pin. Kind of resembles an AR firing pin, or spring. Firing pin spring, I guess we could call it. Pull that out. That's held in by that pin, and we got our bolt out of there. Go ahead and wipe all this down. There's spring. It's really pretty close to an AR or bolt if you think about it. And I know it's not gonna work, exchange or anything, but it's close. Okay, wipe that down. We'll get our spring wiped down here. Our bolt. Get our dry lube out. I just like to get a little, clean it out with this. Alright, now we'll put our nice thin layer of Otis juice on there. I just like to get a thin layer. Now let's put our bolt back together and then move on to the next. Drop this spring in here. It's the same on both sides, so it doesn't matter. Drop it down in there. Excuse me. And get our extractor in there. Drop our little pin here. Now what's going to happen is that's going to hold your pin in. try to kind of drop it in there. It's got a little line there you can line up to. See there? That means that the hole is where our firing pin can get in. I'm going to slide that on there. I like to give my springs a little juice, dry lube. Should be able to slide her on in. And we want this pin, it's going to go in that hole of course, but we want it to get in between that and that. That's what holds it in there. So get it started, and you may have to give it a little push. And all that holds it is this little rubber grommet. It gets wedged in between the edge here. So you'll feel it click in there kind of. And that's it. Bolt carrier, firing pin. Let's move on to the trigger group here. I'm not big on ripping all this stuff apart because I don't have time to put it all back together. I've actually done it once with this gun. So basically I'm just going to wipe it down, shoot it with our dry lube, and then do my thin layer of course. Alright, that's it for our trigger group. Next we will move on to this guy, which we're just going to shoot some dry lube on the spots that connect. Good enough for me. Clean our little stoppers and followers. Wipe down our spring here. Okay, and we'll clean our forearm. Alright, with this we're just going to wipe it down. It doesn't get too dirty. We'll put a layer of frog lube over the exterior of it when we're done. So let's do the housing next. We already wiped it down in there. We got it fairly clean. Next I'm going to squirt some dry lube in there. And just give it a wipe down. And put a couple drops in there. One at the top, one at the bottom. And then we're going to just kind of push it around, get a thin layer on there again. Inside of the housing here. Now we've got a nice thin layer in there. Alright. Next I always put this stuff on here. Alright, next is a barrel. I'm going to use a snake. I don't use the one that came with the Otis kit. I like these. I'm going to run it through here 2 or 3 times. Put this guy away. Alright, next the Otis kit comes with this little thing here. Go ahead and slide it into one side, slide your little 12 gauge rubber grommet thing in there, and pull her through. This will allow us to get some of this Otis juice in the barrel itself. Go ahead and screw it on there. Alright, I'm going to keep this little rag here to clean out the part right here, whatever you want to call it. Alright, we got a nice little layer there. It's already oiled, this still has oil. Alright, we're going to put her back together now. First we got to put in the trigger group. You got to kind of slide it in like so. Get our pin and put back in. Next is our bolt, right? So we got this tail needs to get lined up with our spring back there. Might take a little wiggling around. There we go. Go ahead and pull her back so she's locked. Now we can put our barrel and foregrip back on. I'm going to slide this into that. I'm going to slide our red one in, follower, that's for the shells there. Red one in first. Next would be our spring. We'll stick our stopper back in there. Started here. Now if you look here, we've got an indent there, an indent there, and an indent there, so you can basically line this up however you want your sling. I keep it on the bottom. This is kind of hard to do in videotape. Go ahead and screw it down. And feel those clicks. Give it a little tug. And that's it. Release the bolt. Make sure everything's working properly. Now we will go ahead and put a layer on the outside and then put her back in the safe. Alright, we're going to use frog lube. Basically, put a thin layer over everything before it goes into the gun safe. I go ahead and put a layer on the plastics too. One clean, Benelli M2. Thanks for watching.